Welcome, unprofessionals, to the third episode of the Unprofessional Development Podcast with Tudisco and Mealey. Today we interview Miss English. She's Teacher of the Year, and she shares with us her love of Ibsen, which I struggle to understand. Before we do anything else, stop everything. Stop the presses. Pause the works. Click like. Click subscribe, give a review saying how wonderful and amazing that we are. We do accept love in the form of large banners on small airplanes flying over crowded beaches. Do whatever you can, get the word out there, and when we make our first billion, we'll try to remember your name. This episode is brought to you by Yardsticks. Yardsticks. You want a lightsaber, but there's no lightsaber nearby? Use a yardstick. And if you have a question or you have a story and you think it would be amazing for our podcast, please send it to us. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at unprofessionaldevelopmentcast@gmail.com. That's all. Enjoy the podcast.
If you're listening to this, please, as James Brown says, give us 5 stars, tell us friends, click subscribe, all those things that make us popular, make us go up on iTunes and the Spotify and the Stitcher
your
and whatever
kids
else.
And your MySpaces and your Facebookies.
Yeah,
Zanga.
yes. I mean, seriously, just like
Add us to your Zoom.
just get some spray paint, We're here with Miss English, a former Teacher of the Year. Are you the reigning Teacher of the Year?
I think still, because
You're
there
still
hasn't
reigning-
been a new one nominated.
Did it come with a belt or a cummerbund?
It
or
came with
a trophy?
flowers and balloons and essays I had to write to
Yeah,
get into
'cause I
the
do
pool
wanna-
for Teacher of the Year.
I do want to get into that, so we're going to get to
no.
that in the future. And
Why?
you're
I
gonna share with us.
lost. I didn't win.
Well, you won something, or we just want to kind of like talk about the whole Teacher of the Year.
If you lost, we
concept.
got crushed. Like, we didn't even show up.
Yeah. So the first question we want to talk about is, why did you become a teacher?
Well, obviously, I'm very insecure. I want to make other people feel bad about themselves, and this is the place to do it.
It is nice.
No, I always wanted to be a teacher. I just think I had teachers who inspired me from the time I was young, who I really respected and really made me want to learn things. And I always thought that was cool to be able to do for kids. There was a stint for a moment where I'm like, I'm not going to go to school. I'm going to be famous and move out to New York and be an actress. And then my dad told me that was stupid. So...
Wait, were you like a theater kid in school?
I loved it. I thought I was going to be a famous actress.
Did you?
Wow.
Did you like star in a school play or something like that?
Yes, I did. A few of them.
Okay, can you sing?
I used to.
Oh,
I had a voice coach. I used to be kind of decent at it.
Oh,
I
maybe
wasn't
when we're
anything
done, we'll
overly impressive.
We'll have you cut a version of our theme song.
I'll do it. You should hear me in my classroom when it's kids' birthdays. I sing rather
Do you?
obnoxiously. I get that vibrato out and booming.
Nice. Was there any specific teacher though that or any like a moment where you're like, okay, I'm definitely doing this, or when you were like applying to colleges and declaring majors that it was like,
I loved my 2nd grade teacher, Mrs. Cornelius, but I don't think that's what made me want to be a teacher. My 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Rogers, when I lived outside of Chicago, she was awesome. She was a huge history person and loved the Civil War and American Revolution. She had us doing reenactments and even...
oh, wow.
Yeah, she even with
That's cool.
books, she was great. She read with us all the time. She got us a class set of Tuck Everlasting, which
Okay.
we got to keep our copy, and I still
Aw.
have mine and read it every summer because it's one of my favorite books.
Okay.
And still
Is he
has
still lasting?
We should mention that
it's
she
still
teaches,
lasting.
that she
Tuck
teaches
is still-
English.
Yeah, me or the
No,
I
you.
do. I do. You call me Miss English.
Okay, yeah, just making sure. Okay, go ahead.
But I also speak Spanish.
Okay, muy bien.
Sí.
Por favor, manténgase
Okay.
al lado de los puertos.
Okay.
All right, we're done with you.
So why English of all the subjects?
Yeah. How did you narrow that one down? Other than obviously you like Tuck Everlasting.
Well, that, and I just love bringing home papers to grade. Honestly, I was.
Essays are the
They
worst.
are the worst.
They're
And
awful.
unfortunately, and probably one of the reasons why I teach English, I see writing proficiency as such a big necessity. Because to me, it's not just, oh, can you write an essay? It's, do you know how to think?
Right.
It's the ability to think.
And organize those
and
thoughts.
organize those thoughts in some kind of process. Because for a while, I didn't know if I wanted to teach English or Spanish. Because I really do love Spanish. I always did. I'd probably get more money back on my loans if I would have taught Spanish. But, you know, work harder, not smarter. But no, I saw that was a great need. And I think just because the majority of my teachers by whom I was most inspired were English teachers.
Okay.
So Mrs. Rogers, even though she was history, she really pushed a lot of reading on us. Mr. Schwartz, my 11th grade teacher, I had a really cute 10th grade English teacher. But,
Okay.
you know.
Yes.
And how long have you been teaching now?
This is my 7th year here. I had a year while I was in grad school, too, when I was in Pittsburgh. But you don't count that because you get paid in learning.
Right.
And
Wait,
experience.
so you were
student teaching.
wait.
We had it for my master's program. You had to teach it a full year.
Okay.
So you
All
were
full on unpaid?
Mm-hmm. I ended
What?
up. It used to be you got a stipend.
After you had a degree in education.
Well, you were working towards your master's. It was part of your master's program, and it used to be that you got stipends, but because you're being placed in different school districts, different schools were paying different stipend amounts to students, so they didn't think that was fair. So they're like, if everybody gets nothing, then it's equal.
Well, while I was student teaching, I remember...
That's fair. No one gets anything. That's
But it
that's my definition of fair. No one gets anything.
That's
it ended
right.
up working out for me because in the second half of the year, one of the elective teachers for journalism and yearbook went out on maternity leave, and they actually were able to then formally hire me
Right.
to
That's cool.
teach those 2 electives as a sub. So while I was still doing English,
Nice.
in 2 other planning periods I had, I was teaching those and then getting some money, which helped out a lot as a
Yeah.
broke grad student.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I was student teaching, I remember my students asked me, like, how much do you get paid for this? I went, oh, no. I'm paying thousands of dollars to be here.
Think about the love you have for me, and that's about it.
Yes. Yeah.
I tried to pay off my loans with the Smiles of Children, and they sent all those Polaroids back.
Yeah,
Yes.
they
They
were
were-
not okay with it.
Sternly
No.
worded. Sternly worded
I'm sure
letters.
it was. And
One of the things we like to talk about that's always fun to hear is what we call first year horror stories. Okay? So everyone's first year is challenging, but it sounds like you had multiple first years.
technically, 2.
So is there something that you think about your first year that you go, I can't believe the kids got away with this, or I can't believe I thought this was going to work, or...
I can't believe I survived this.
Right.
I have to knock on wood. Like, I don't have many horror stories. I just
Right.
have really funny ones. My
Okay, well,
first
that's
year
we love
here,
really funny ones.
right? I always do A Doll's House, which I love, and my kids love. Surprisingly, I know, but they're there begging, "Can we read today? Are we going to read today?" And it's like, "What's wrong with you?" Which is a good thing.
I've never read that.
It's a play, and so we
Okay.
we read it together.
Who's the playwright?
Ibsen?
Oh.
Yeah. So 19th century Victorian Norway.
Oh.
I know, but it's hilarious. It's awesome, and the kids have a good time with it. So we're reading it together as a class, and I photocopied. I killed like half the Amazon making copies for my kids so they can write and annotate all over it, whatever
Yep.
notes they want to make. And we're reading, and it's my first year, first class of the day, and like some of the boys start giggling, and then they're like pointing to each other, and it gets to the point where it's like disrupting the class. I'm like, guys, what's going on? And one of my kids gets up and just says, there's a picture in this script.
Nice.
Of all the scripts in the book room, all the copies I could have chosen, I chose the one with a very detailed and graphic hand drawing of a human appendage.
Nice.
Oh, like from the textbook?
Typically found on the male body, and it was
right.
photocopied in everybody, and I had almost 40
So
kids
it was
in each class. so-
basically graffiti from another book, or was it part of the book?
It wasn't part of the book, so a kid had drawn in one of the school copies
Right,
this
yes.
image, and
Yes.
I was
If
like,
you
oh
ever
my
need
god.
people to draw either male genitalia or marijuana leaves.
Yes.
They are
They're
like,
really good at it.
they are awesome at that. There were so many kids that can draw those things.
They-
Whenever I see kids doodling marijuana leaves, I just go over and go, I don't know you were Canadian.
Well, yeah, so then I'm like, oh my god, I had everybody rip their paper out, and I'm like,
That's
oh god,
awful.
everyone's going home with a picture of this, I'm getting fired, but now I realize that that's definitely not going to do it for you.
No.
But it was, I'm just like, oh, great, we all
That
had
is-
to acknowledge
that
this
is-
together as a class, so...
That is funny. Can I share a story that reminds me of?
Absolutely.
There's 2 of them. Okay.
Oh, dear.
I know. These are safe, but they're kind of unusual. So anyway, there was this young lady in my class, and I won't say her name,
George.
But yes, but her initials were DG. Okay? And we had formed teams. We were playing a game where, like, I put a math problem up on the board, and they had to work together as a team, and they hold up the answer, and if you got it right first, you got points, and all this kind of stuff, right? So we had to have team names. So this team name they came up with was DGAF. Okay?
Don't give a Fruit Loop.
And so I didn't know what that... I'm like, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I said, what does that stand for? And they said her name. Her name was good. You know that? She said, and friends. Okay? So imagine her name was
Debbie Gibson.
Yeah, Debbie Gibson and friends, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, DGAF, right? And then the next class comes in, and I'm like, Mr. Mealey, like, what is that up on the board there? And I'm like, Debbie Gibson and friends? And they're like, no, that's... No. I'm like... And they were
incorrect.
So, the second example of that, I did.
Oh, no.
I know. So, we're teaching compound interest. Love some compound interest, okay?
I don't know what
Einstein
that is.
says it's the eighth wonder of the world.
Oh, I put it up
Anyway,
there with a doll's house in terms of fun.
It's awesome. So, we're doing compound interest. So, I'm creating word problems on the fly because I'm good like that, right? So I go, so you're Uncle Scrooge McDuck, because I'm like, oh, let's be hip. The kids love the Scrooge McDuck. So,
am I supposed to know what that is?
You don't know who Scrooge
Scrooge
McDuck
McDuck?
is?
No.
He's Donald Duck's rich uncle, the one that, like, dives into the money and...
DuckTales?
Yes.
Oh, I never watched DuckTales.
Okay.
So is this still going to be funny for me, or should I just
Yes,
tune
it will
out?
be funny to you. So
Scrooge McDuck.
I didn't feel like writing out Scrooge McDuck, right? And I didn't know back then. This is, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. So I just wrote...
Did you do SMD?
I did put SMD on the board, and the kids are hysterical. And I'm like, do you not know what that is?
No, I'm ignorant.
Tudisco doesn't still know what that is. Don't write it up on the board.
Okay. Noted.
He hasn't been tainted
We'll write
yet.
it. See what I'm writing down? See how funny that is now? Now laugh like I wrote what it stands for.
I do have struggles every time I go over multiple choice tests.
Saying answer choice D?
Yes.
IDK? Oh.
Yeah. It was like, yes, good D. There's got to be a better way to say that.
So the kids were just hysterical when I wrote SMD on the board. And I had no idea. I'm like,
sure they
Scrooge
were.
McDuck.
Well, it's funny you say that about answer choices, because you will learn after one time of doing like a group consensus activity, like who wants answer choice A, who wants B, who wants C, who wants D, and then you know you need to say answer choice D.
Right. You can't say who wants D.
Yeah.
Did anybody hear multiple choice questions? Did we get C? Who got D? Anybody here get D?
Yes.
Nobody? All right, moving on.
I know.
All right, so a side note to that. Have you or do you know anybody who's ever like shown a video in class without viewing it ahead of time?
Me?
Yeah.
Like I'm super vigilant about it, and the one time I wasn't, I was showing them. We just concluded a unit on Greek mythology. It was like the day before winter break, and they're like finishing up projects.
They're not paying attention on that day anyway.
Right. So I put up a Wonder Woman cartoon.
Oh no.
So it was a movie. It was like a Wonder Woman like DC movie. And I did not realize all of the innuendos that they were saying throughout the whole thing, because it was a guy landing on Wonder Woman's island and just hitting on everybody.
Nice.
And so I quickly shut that off.
Yes. Well, always the challenges as well is the other choices for videos once you've played the video. I was playing just a video that was like a song about trigonometry, but then when you're done with that...
They make songs about that?
Yes. Yeah, it's called Get Triggy With It.
Oh,
it is to the tune of...
Get Jiggy With It?
It is, yes.
What's that song?
So, yeah, it's a really good one.
It was to Rachmaninoff, actually.
There's...
Twist.
Yes. So, yeah, but then the one that, for some reason, whatever YouTube's... Now I know YouTube, it's a little more based on what you've watched, but then
Right.
it was, for some reason, it was just the top whatever videos, and whenever I play that video, these other videos, just basically girls in bikinis alongside, like, pick that one, Mr. Mealey, pick that one.
Right, yeah, the
I'm
suggested
like, we're not
or...
watching that. I wanted you to Get Triggy With It, because it's got some phrases in it that I will now use for you to remember how to do trigonometry.
The YouTube Instant Play.
Yes.
To complement, the beautiful
When next
drawing.
down low, you just switch,
To complement the beautiful drawing that was in the script that I choose to copy
Yes.
my first year, I think also it was like the day before break, and I was showing kids clips from the play, a version, and there's in the third act when they come home from a Christmas party, and the husband's he's been popping champagne all night, and he's talking about how beautiful his wife is looking to him right now, and how he's happy to be home alone with her. Well, in the video, which I didn't care to screen first because it's a play, and come on.
Cool.
I know. And it was my first year, like, he starts, like, full-on groping her chest.
Oh, nice!
Yeah, I mean, she was clothed, but it was pretty, yeah, we could tell where this
wow.
was going, and I was like, oh, God, and, you know, we all have those rookie moments.
Yes.
So
yes.
the moral of the story is, just view things.
Screen your material.
Screen the material.
Yes, and look at what you're making copies of.
Yeah.
Right, especially when it comes to anything with ancient Greece, because boy, do they just love nudity.
And it's hard because in English, I mean, pretty much everything's a phallic symbol, too.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
there's so much allusion to that.
I mean,
Yes.
Midsummer Night's Dream, I show them that, but like it's full of fairies, and fairies don't like clothing.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So let's talk about this Teacher of the Year thing.
Oh, no.
You're nominated for Teacher of the Year, and
Yes.
you're thankful. Do you remember who it was that nominated you? You don't have to say their name, but do you remember who it was that
Yes, I
nominated you?
do, because they told me. And
Okay.
I was happy to know that it's somebody at the school who I really respect.
Right.
It's not somebody who's just like a buddy. It's somebody who I think is respected.
A quality educator.
Very much so. And I think that's kind of what's cool about Teacher of the Year, that you're nominated by your peers and your
Right.
coworkers. So
Right. Or you can nominate yourself if you want to.
you can. I didn't. I nominated about 5 people, and it's always like, oh, nominate 1 or 2 people. But it's hard because I think we do have a lot of really good people who
Yes.
just care about what they do. And, you know, despite, there are many reasons to be dejected and feeling kind of down about the state of education right now.
Right.
And being a teacher is not easy because of that. But
Right.
and I think too many people use that as an excuse to not do what they need to do.
And be a grumpy Gus.
Exactly, but there are still so many people who are going to keep their integrity and come in every day doing what they need to do to the best of their ability. So.
Yes. So then you find out, you
Yep.
win. They come in with, you said, with balloons and flowers.
Well, they
So
actually-
administration came in, or how did that?
I'm
about?
not one to feel awkward very often because usually I'm the one creating awkward situations. So I've just learned to kind of like pick and roll with those situations in my life. But
Right.
it was
Just
the
a
day
golden
last year
belt of awkward.
they started doling out the Chromebooks for the kids to have for the first time. So I was in like the first slot of kids to go down to the media center. So it's filled, it's chaos. And then I'm in the middle of the room, like meandering. I see another teacher friend and I'm talking. I'm assuming my children are okay. And then our, at the time, financial secretary turned principal secretary.
Right.
Starts yelling in the middle of the floor, everybody, I need to make an announcement. And so I like am in the middle of the room and try to run off and scoot, and she grabs me and I'm like, oh no, I did something wrong and they're making an example of me.
Nice.
And then
This
all
is
of a
how I
sudden,
die.
our former principal and somebody else, I don't know who, comes out with flowers and balloons, and they made they made the announcement. So that was kind of cool.
So this is what I've heard then. I haven't, experienced it because I'm not Teacher of the Year, okay? I'm not even Teacher of the Day.
You are in my eyes every day.
Wow.
But then I've heard that there is an insane amount of work to make it from Teacher of the Year at your individual school, and I'm sure every state is different, but on some level you go from school to district to state
School to
Teacher of the
zone
World.
Yeah.
So
I think it went
so to
zone
get,
to district.
oh, really? Went,
Yeah,
so
or community to zone to district to
because our
state.
school district is
This sounds
way
like the
too large.
competitions in Glee. Like,
It
we
is.
have regionals, then sub-regionals, and then...
Yes.
It was crazy,
States.
and our former
Like winning a
principal,
spelling bee almost.
our former principal, God bless her, she had so much faith in me, and then I just let her down, I guess. But no, because she's like, I really think you could do it, and you need to answer all these questions, and it was so much, and about who you are, favorite activities, and then there's essay questions, and right about a time like this, and when you really felt like close with your kids, or inspired a kid, or where you saw somebody overcome challenges, or you did too. I didn't write about the picture. Maybe that would have gotten me farther.
What was the picture? Oh, that picture.
Yeah, but I'm a little disappointed only because
So
it
how
always
much-
seems to be middle and elementary school who get them
Yeah.
because they do art projects.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
What
That's
about that guy
not true.
from
I remember that was my first year. Like
that
7
one
years
that came from our district and then won for like the state
Yeah,
and got to
yeah.
do that. And he seemed just like
He seemed
really full
as
of energy
awesome
guy.
as he
Yeah.
probably was in the classroom.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
aspire to be that man every day.
Nah.
yeah.
I'll just
Okay.
try to stick to status quo. I want to I don't want to be teacher of the year. I just want to be teacher
Just still employed teacher.
just in general. Yeah. I feel like a teacher some days.
Enough with room to grow, but not too far to fall if you do fall.
Right.
Right.
This is something I have here because I was going to sound like this silly
Hello,
mutual
family.
admiration society.
That's
but
how I
like,
start my emails to my department.
Yes, and so Miss English, whenever she walks in the teacher workroom,
Me?
yes, you say hello,
Oh,
family.
that's funny. I'm like, I say that too. Oh,
Right, and that's
I
why
do.
I've got that there because, and you says the emails to the department and so first of all, I just want to say that that's awesome and that you probably don't realize, without getting all mushy and whatever here, that occasionally there's someone that really needed to hear that day.
Is it you, Mealey?
Sometimes it's me, sometimes
Aw.
it's other people.
Could you
know?
pass the box of Kleenex
I
behind
know.
you?
I have this thing on my door. I might have mentioned this before. It's above my doorway. Oh, no, it was in a meeting I was in. It wasn't in one of these things. Anyway, it says, "Today is the day you make a difference in someone's life." Right? Because I try to remind myself that you actually do.
You do. You bring us popcorn every week.
Right.
But like I get what you mean though. Like it's easy to fall into like the rhythm of the job and just feel like it's just another
And the
day.
angst of
Yes.
it. Yeah. It
Right.
really is. And especially when I think, like we said, there's negativity around, and it's not easy always to be positive. But then that other negativity can get to you too, and you don't want that to breed. So
Yeah. So I tell this story, and maybe one day we might have my dad on. I don't know. My dad taught for 38 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in Philadelphia. And
Oh, I did know this.
okay, so but anyway, he told me
I
this
love
story.
the diversity on this show. We're going from straight white guys from the Northeast to straight white guys from the Northeast.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Straight white women from the Northeast.
Yes,
good.
yes. So so my dad tells me this story one time. He gets this letter, and this is why I remember this. And I try to I really need him to give me a copy of that letter. Anyway, so my dad taught science, mostly biology, and he gets this letter, and it says, "Dear Mr. Mealey, I remember when you taught, and I forget what the lesson was. I taught such and such lesson. It really inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that day that I wanted to become a doctor.
Aw.
I'm writing to let you know today is the day that I got my MD.
Aw.
Thank you for changing my life."
That's awesome.
You know? And he's like, "I don't know what I did that day. I just did the lesson the way I
somebody
always
does,
do that
yeah.
lesson." And so we never know. We are teaching young people who are very influenceable. You know?
I mean, and everything you say, it means something to someone.
It
Yeah.
does. You know?
Usually, like the quiet ones in the back, like that's the ones I get the most feedback from.
Yeah.
The
Right.
kids who like never talk to me all year, and they come out like, "You're my favorite teacher." I'm like,
I don't even know
didn't-
what your voice sounds
Yeah.
like. Like, dang. You just
Yes.
pulled my heartstrings.
Yeah. So,
I had a boy. I was tutoring a kid at a coffee shop, and this guy came in and sat down. And it's this like handsome young gentleman sits down next to us, and while I'm tutoring this kid, he looks at me and goes, "Tudisco, right?" And I went, "Yeah."
Depends, maybe.
He's like, "I'm Gus." I went,
you've been served.
"Right? It's a trap." He was like, "Gus." I'm like, "Okay." And he was like, "You tutored me in middle school." I was like, "No." And I don't. It's tough when you teach them when they're younger too, because as they grow into people, you
They
don't
look
recognize.
differently.
Right.
Like I mean,
What?
yeah. So I
There's an Emo Phillips routine I could do, but I'm not going to. Okay.
we all appreciate that.
Yes. Don't bust on my boy Emo Phillips.
So yeah,
You know Emo Phillips?
No, but
Oh,
I'm
he's
sure
a
it's
comic
hilarious
genius.
if you want to.
I'll do it later. No. Go
so
ahead.
I tutored him in math when he was in like 8th grade. I'm like, "What are you doing now?" He's like, "I'm going to school for engineering."
Nice.
It's like, "You helped me get through Calc 4. I was like, "I definitely did not do that."
Don't you teach English?
Yeah, but I tutor in math. I love math.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Look, I have math and you have Ibsen. All right.
Nice. So,
There we go.
but the question is, actually though, do you know when or how or why you first started saying "Hello, family"? Did you do it consciously, or
I
did
think
you?
it had to be early on. I always say that in my classroom we're family, you know, and even like when we'll read, or you guys want to, for certain texts, you want to read as a family or want to read individually, and
Oh,
they
that
know
reminds
that
me of
is
something
our
to do it.
house. And, you know, even with some of my classes, like for some of my classes where it's hard for them not to cuss in class, and I am proof that it is possible despite how difficult it can be sometimes. Used to make them do push-ups for every cuss word they would say. And they got into it, and if kids didn't want
buff,
to...
huh?
Yeah, we had some really buff classes. But like kids, if they didn't want to, or they're like, I'm not doing it, someone would be like, bro, I'm doing it with you. We're family, so we can like share push-ups, right? If we're family, you know. So there's always that. It's a good culture to have in your classroom.
Yeah, that's
but
great culture.
Also, when I moved here, I was 23. When I got there, I was fortunate that there were a lot of people, at our school, that were great, and that were just open and friendly, and there were also a lot of people like within my age group, so that we kind of clung to each other right away, and we really did become a family. So it's like you do football things together, we're at each other's houses, we're doing drafts together, you know, when people are leaving and coming and going, it's like you want to get them involved. So and it really is, you're with these people. I think our job is really unique in that way, that we're not, even though we're in a classroom, we're not just isolated to a cubicle. We're seeing each other. You can pop into someone's room. Like, I always feel, I work with my friends. Right. It's like being in college and going around a dorm floor. Yes. You know? Yes. So it's really interesting that, you know, it's like I get to see my friends every day. You know? Because I didn't know anybody here, my coworkers were my friends and my family right away. So, yeah. That's cool.
So, when I first... got saved, which, like I said, this is not a Christian podcast. I went to a very Pentecostal-y church.
A lot of jokes don't begin with "I went to a Pentecostal church" and go in a good direction.
But everyone
Pentecostal-y.
Pentecostal-y. It was not technically part of the denomination.
Pentecostish.
Yes, but there were people. Everyone there called each other brother this and sister that.
Were you Brother Mealey?
I was Brother TV because my nickname back then was TV, and that's a whole other story that we don't have time to get into.
Back from your football days, I'm sure.
Yes, so I watched way too much TV when I was at college, and it became a nickname that just stuck with me for a really long time.
Okay.
But
like Mike TV from Willy Wonka.
Yes. So, but it would be So it would be like, you know, Brother Ralph and Sister George and you know and all these things that we
Sister George.
Sister Georgina.
Yes.
Anyway.
And her brother, Boy George.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I always liked that. Like, I go to, you know, the church I go to now, it's not like that. But I always really liked that idea that we were calling each other brother and sister and all that kind of stuff. So, last year, I mentioned, like, the fact that I really do want my class to be like a family. And I mentioned... the fact that I had, like, you know, gone to a church where they called people that and said maybe we could start that in this class and encourage the kids.
How did that go? How in the world did that go?
Well, some of them really enjoyed it and were calling each other brother this and sister that, and it was, but mostly mocking. And then like.
Yeah.
And then,
you didn't anticipate that coming?
So what is my name?
A group of teenagers who chose to be rude?
Father?
Am I now Papa Mealey in this situation? So they're calling me Father Mealey or Daddy Mealey and all these kind of things.
No.
And it was too much. It was just, it only lasted a couple days, but it was
currently in Math 1,
really funny.
One of the teachers is being called Master.
Nice.
Not because of him instilling that, but he has an ELL class. And, you know, in Spanish, teacher is maestro, and they're calling him, and they translate it to master on the emails, and now they're calling him master in class.
They'll bow in the beginning of class.
I do have a student who's learning English who can't pronounce my last name, but also doesn't really understand the differences in address, so they keep calling me Mrs.
Nice.
Aww.
They're sweet.
It's because you have flowing hair.
That's exactly what it is.
A lot of Spanish-speaking kids, though, I found, because they would just call me Mister. But I think that's partially because Senor is not only Mister, but it's also Sir. So it's almost like a Sir, Ma'am thing, where they're not really calling you, like, it's not like they don't know the rest of your name, but it's just a way, it's a respect. Because I used to think, like, why do you not call me the rest of my name? Why did you say Mr.
I will say that I love that first thing when I moved down south being called ma'am.
Nice.
That didn't happen up north, and I was like, This is great.
I think it's such a difference in people because I also really like that. But when I was living up north, I'd still call people sir and ma'am. Like I was one of the only people. Like
Well,
my
apparently your
just
parents
ingrained that
raised
in
you
you.
better than mine
No,
did.
my family, nobody says sir or ma'am. Like, I was the only one. I was just the oddball. And so when I came down here, I was like, oh, I like this a lot. And a lot of my friends are like, it makes me feel old.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people down here will be like, oh, I'm not a ma'am, I'm not old. I'm like, I love it. I feel like a goddess when they say it. I'm still not over it.
I shone down on you with rays of wisdom.
Yes.
Yes. One of the things we like to talk about is that kid or that class, and so one of the things we have in common, we'll keep this anonymous, but this story came up when I was talking to Miss English the other day, and it was so funny that I said we really should talk about it on the podcast, and we'll try to
I don't remember what this is.
Okay.
I'm very scared.
The printer. Okay. So there was a student that we
Worse than a phallic symbol?
that we both shared, right?
Oh.
And so this young
Bless
man,
him. That is definition Southern. Bless him.
he was very creative. Yes.
Little George?
And so he was and this is back before like Google Drive, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had
Back
to
in
like
the day,
back in the day before we didn't have the Google Drive.
all the
you kids have
information was
Google
saved
Drive.
on a horse cart.
Yes. So
You
you had
Sean Connery or what?
you had to save things
Everyone
to
was
us.
Scottish.
Whether you called it, I don't know, do you call it a thumb drive, a flash drive, a
flash
USB,
drive,
all
yeah.
those different things,
Called
okay?
the full universal serial bus.
Yes, universal serial bus. But anyway, you rode on the universal serial bus, yes.
Is that really what USB stands for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to sound like
Yes.
an idiot on this
Yes,
thing, but
yes.
Oh, now you're making me question it.
Yes.
Do I sound like an idiot? Well, I mean,
the first
more
two
than
letters
usual.
sound legit, but bus?
I know, right?
I'm Googling
I know,
now.
because I hosted a
Bus
trivia
feels
game,
like it
and
might
that
be
was definitely a
another,
question.
there might be 3 more letters that you break down BUS that stands for something else, but I don't know.
Anywho.
Yeah, Wikipedia.
Printer.
So he was composing this
Manifesto.
Manifesto.
It was a manifesto.
Yes, about imaginary exploits with the of the romantic nature that he was having. So
He was putting together a million little pieces.
yes, and so
To the degree that he understood them.
right,
Which was
yes,
not exactly
not
complex.
not experientially. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
So anyway, so he would have to save it to a flash drive, but occasionally he wanted to print it off so he could edit it and do things, right? So he would go to various teachers and say, "Can I use your printer?" Back when, the printers were all over the rooms, and so he would print it off and then do that. And like it was expanding to I don't know what amount of pages
All
it
over.
was. So but it was a volume, right? We're in like the 20, 30 page range.
And so,
here.
like, did you know what he was doing when he was printing this off?
It got
Not everyone did. He would go to random teachers
And
that
Gotcha.
once
didn't
they
know him.
figured out what it was like on to the next one.
Right.
You know?
Wow.
Right. So then the administration found out about this, and he'd done it for the however manyth time. And they gave him, so at this point, a discipline was handed down, and then I'll let Miss English take over the story.
I had said student, this is back when we only had 3 lunches during third block. And I had him, our lunch was the middle lunch. So I had him for a minute, they'd go to lunch and then come back. Well, he didn't come back from lunch. And it was 10 minutes in the class. We'd already started. He comes bursting into the room as we're reading probably A Doll's House, which he loved, by the way.
All right.
Because in his words, he could really relate to Nora and because his dad had one leg.
Yes.
Which he made that comment and has absolutely no connection to the text, but it was one of the things you're just like, okay, and you move on. But anywho,
He just wanted
comes
everyone to know that.
Thanks,
About that.
bursting in and he's like, Miss Me. He's like, I need a new seat right now. I'm like, student, I'm like, we already started class. I said, you're late. He's like, no, you don't understand. I cannot be near the computer. I need a new seat. And he would just not calm down. And I'm like, child, like, we'll deal with this later. He's like, no, Mr. our former AP at the time said, I cannot be within 15 feet of a computer. And I said, your seat is well beyond 15 feet. And he's like, are you sure maybe we should measure it? Because I cannot get in trouble. I have a restraining order against the computer.
So he was issued a restraining order from all the computers in the school
Oh, my
by the assistant principal to solve this
goodness.
problem. So that is just that's good
Wow.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
all right, so I do have one story about that class.
Okay, cool. Go
so
ahead.
This is from my first year teaching.
Uh-huh.
And so
That is in quotes, by the way. Finger quotes, that class.
that class.
Anyway, go ahead.
So I had this class that I had awful classroom management, and on top of that, there was no curriculum. There was not a lot of support. Like I really struggled my first year
You should
teaching.
have taught him blackjack.
What? I don't know what that means.
21.
At least something
Oh,
useful.
teach them blackjack.
Yeah,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
curriculum. I mean, that's beneficial.
Cool.
Absolutely, it worked for
Yes.
the guy from across the universe.
Yeah.
So there's
What
this
references I'm not aware of. Anyway,
Jim
go ahead.
Sturgis. Anywho,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So this class was just getting on me, and they couldn't stop talking, and they weren't controlling themselves, they weren't focusing, and I just lost them this class. And I don't use inappropriate language, but I definitely raised my voice, and I was very stern with them. But I don't really like yelling or losing my patience like that. Like, getting angry isn't the way to get kids in line. Like, we all
No.
lose our patience
Yes.
sometimes.
They do try us sometimes.
They
Right.
do.
Yes.
They make it very difficult at
Yes.
moments.
Right.
Yes.
So, and we all lose our cool at work. But when you work around kids, it's just, you got to be extra delicate. So
Yeah.
the very next day, I happened to also be getting observed. But I thought it over exactly like how I needed to reset that class, because, I mean, the juju of the entire room is thrown at that point, right? All the shui is funged.
Yes.
So
Were they kind of like, oh my goodness, Mr. Tudisco is
How
yelling at
long
us?
have you been waiting to use that reverse feng shui?
I
reference?
use it all the time.
Okay,
I
Thank
knew-
you.
I
You keep
knew
that
it.
in your back pocket.
Yes. Wow.
I liked it.
I come up with about one witty thing a year, and
I
I
believe
cling
it.
to it for dear
I
life.
believe
Nice.
So I came in the next day, and I stood in front of the class with all of them, and I was like, look, guys, I want to talk about yesterday, and I just want you to know that I think we all need to really do some reflecting and think about, how we can move forward in class, how we can all make better decisions.
Sing some kumbaya.
Because we can all, be more mature. And I think the first step is we need to accept the things that we are doing wrong. And I want to go first. And so I took that as an opportunity to apologize to the class for losing my patience. And explain to the class why I lost their patience.
Always
And
good
then
to
I had
do.
them write down their own reflections on what they thought they were doing wrong in class and what they should be doing differently. And so
Wow.
that's just something really cool that helped reset the room. And
Did it actually make a difference?
I mean, it helped. It didn't.
For how long?
My first year teaching
18
was a
minutes.
struggle. No, but it helped change the energy of the room. So it was like, at least we all are on the same side now.
Right.
A lot of
Yeah.
people,
Right.
I think, are afraid to show themselves as teachers, as humans to their kids.
Right.
And
Right.
Yeah.
not just listen to you, respect you.
Do you know how many
Right.
students I have respect me because I'll say I don't know or I'm sorry? Like,
Right.
it's so simple, and it was something that was really tough to let go of
Yeah.
because you want to feel like the adult in the room.
Right.
I'm sorry I got mad. You made me want to rip my hair out, and I really don't want to say I'm sorry, but I am.
Right.
But it's true. No, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. So last thing, we're going to kind of wrap it up here, and I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I don't know. So what kind of student were you when you were in both, in elementary, middle, and high school?
Well, I had a brother who's still do. He's 2 years older than me, and he did not prepare my teachers for me, and not in a bad way. He was very quiet, very studious, did what he needed to do, and
What does he do for a living, if you don't mind asking?
I'm not sure of the official title. He is
Assassin.
He got his. That'd be pretty sweet. He got his PhD a couple years ago from Duke. He is a
Wow.
microbiology, virology. Yeah,
Wow.
I guess this short, quick, and dirty is that he's a biologist or a
Okay.
microbiologist, and he currently is a project manager for a drug testing company.
Okay.
But yeah, I went to his defense of his dissertation, and I knew about 6.5 words of it.
Nice.
And the big ones were and I
Yes.
thought I knew Xbox, but that meant something totally different.
Nice.
Pretty sure
but
he
yeah.
said mitochondria once.
I don't. Well,
Maybe.
that's the powerhouse of the cell. But-
Wow. Look at that.
But no, I was a good student. I did really well in school. I had parents who, encouraged education, and because we did well, they were never like, you have to get A's, you have to do this, you have to be the best. They wanted us to be the best that we could be, and if we could do a certain or perform at a certain level, they wanted to see that. And if that dipped, it was, all right, make it better. Very much, you've got issues, fix them.
Right.
But I did really well in school. I was just loud and talkative.
You are loud,
and
did you get in trouble for that or get sent to the principal ever? Or
no, I mean, I might be the one who had to be told to stop talking every once in a while, or like.
Were you the one who always had their hand in the air?
Not always, but I did love debates and stuff. I hated awkward silences, so if nobody would, raise their hand, I would. But I mean, I was very conversational. I didn't get in trouble really from stuff at school anyway. At home, that was a different story. So even though nothing horrible, I've been told, and I was told through my childhood by parents who will go unnamed, that I at times was a backtalker or had a tone.
Okay.
And
I imagine if you had an opinion,
attitude.
People would know.
Yeah, I was told that, but in reality, I'm just loud and I have a lot of inflection.
Yes.
And I feel the need to, if somebody's going to share their stance on how my room or my breaking curfew went, that I had the right to defend myself, and inflection equaled attitude, and yes. And that didn't always go over well. It was funny because even we had to write in 8th grade in my computer class. We had to write a letter to ourselves that our computer teacher would mail out to us when we graduated.
Okay.
And it was funny because just in moving stuff in my room a year or two ago, I found it. I had saved it. And at the end, I had put I put all this ridiculous stuff I hope I'm still best friends with so and so, and I want to go on a road trip, and I really hope when I get to high school I get to date my brother's friend who's the third baseman on the baseball team. He's really cute, all this stuff, and at the end I was dreaming big. I put P.S. You really need to stop talking back. Getting grounded is cutting into your social life. So there was some self-awareness there, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to share? Because we're gonna wrap it up.
Do we want to ask the big question of what's worked lately?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah. Do you have a good thing I did this in my class, or I've done this in my class before, and I think this is a really cool thing that works for me?
I think in general, what my kids do well every year, and I don't mean that in a braggadocious way. We work hard for it, but I think
Teacher of the year.
Heck yeah. But I think one of the biggest things you can do in any classroom, like we said, let yourself be human, be goofy with them, because they can be as crazy and frustrating as they can be. They can be some of the funniest people on the planet, but get them talking in any way you can.
Right.
Let them get in conversation with the material, and let them question it out loud, that kind of stuff. Also, anytime you can just kind of take that moment to be goofy and giggly, every Friday for our warm-up, we do warm-ups every day, but Friday's always Riddle Friday,
Nice.
Have the human moments.
Okay.
And, screen your material for explicit content. And anytime you can give food as a motivator it's a plus. So
yeah.
As long as you don't attract the cockroaches.
Yeah, and also food allergies, because one wrong,
Oh yeah.
Almond Joy could really involve a lot of paperwork.
Just,
Oh my goodness.
just buy Airheads, all right?
Yeah.
Avoid the peanuts.
No, you got kids who are allergic to red dye and ruin everything.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay.
They'll never make it in the Hunger Games.
And the zombie apocalypse.
They'll probably be okay there.
Yes. Okay.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we enjoyed having you. It was awesome. I knew it would be. Did you want to, while we still got the thing playing, do your rendition of the theme
No, I
song?
will not.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Thank you, Miss English.
Yes.
Thank you.
And do all the social media stuff that we said before, and
Do it.
Do it.
Give in to peer pressure.
You
yes.
will do
Click
it.
subscribe. Right. Tell your friends.